Number 10, Model 13, the HULKBUSTER armor. Starting with an absolute classic, the HULKBUSTER armor has been reworked throughout the years many times, those models being Model 36 and 52. However, let's focus on the first iteration for today. Rather than a full suit of armor like most other suits Tony has created, the HULKBUSTER armor is actually an add-on to the modular armor that was introduced in 1994's Ironman number 300. Basically, this armor had different add-ons used for a variety of situations, ranging from microsurgery equipment to the massive HULKBUSTER. So, I guess kind of think of it as the Mr. Potato Head of Iron Man armor. This particular add-on was used when Hulk confronted Iron Man over the production of gamma bombs while partnered with Stain International, and you probably guessed it, but they did have a pretty big fight over it. Possessing these standard repulsors and unibeam that are incorporated in all base Iron Man suits, the HULKBUSTER armor integrated a magno-hydraulic pseudo-musculature structure, which provided enhanced strength of what is assumed to be able to lift at least 175 tons. Sensors were also adapted to focus on detecting gamma radiation, and it had impact-resistant carbon composite plating and an anchoring system so he could withstand any hit that came his way. Although the modular armor appeared in Iron Man number 300, the HULKBUSTER armor didn't appear until a few issues later in Iron Man number 304. But, I mean, we're all pretty familiar with this one, I assume, since it has already appeared on the big screen in Avengers Age of Ultron. So, let's move on to some stronger and maybe lesser known armors. Number 9, Model 57 3FB. Known officially as the Fin Fang Foom Buster, this suit was designed by Tony alongside Stark Unlimited as a countermeasure against his longtime enemy, Fin Fang Foom. Before we dive more into this design, I do just want to say this one is probably my favorite suit design but I probably am a little bit biased considering I grew up on Gundam and Power Rangers, so anytime I see a blocky looking behemoth of a robot, I am instantly in love. But anyways, let's not dive too far into this tangent. Let's get back to the 3FB. Deployed by Stark to intercept Triple F, that is what I'm calling Fin Fang Foom because my god, that is a real mouthful when he attacked Manhattan. This suit was deployed as a set of autopiloted air repulsor cannons, and in true Megazord fashion, they combined together to create the 20-story tall suit powerful enough to keep Triple F at bay. Alongside the standard Iron Man suit capabilities, this suit can emit electrical discharges from the palms of its gauntlets. Now, unfortunately, Triple F was able to land a critical hit on this armor, forcing Tony to eject from it and continue the fight in the Model 56 armor, and since then we haven't seen much of it. If you want to see the suit in action for yourself, check it out in 2018's Tony Stark Iron Man number 1. Number 8, Model 22, THORBUSTER. Similar to Batman and his contingency plan for the Justice League, it appears that Tony is ready to fight the other members of the Avengers if he has to, although I really doubt he wants to because some of them are literal gods. In this case, Thor gave Tony an Asgardian crystal with the hopes of creating a safer and cleaner power source for Earth. But after an Odin Force-powered and angry Thor begins to rampage because some Asgardian worshippers were killed, Tony is kind of forced to design a suit of armor powered by the crystal that is powerful enough to stop the almighty god of thunder. With a similar design to the Destroyer armor, this suit utilizes the mystical Asgardian energy for everything from flight to life support, and it's basically invulnerable with Thor being the only thing able to damage it. Unfortunately, it did not stick around for too long though, because once Thor got tired of fighting with Tony, he just straight up ripped the suit in half, and thankfully Tony wasn't in it anymore as he had already ejected himself, knowing this was a fight he could probably not win. Now, I highly recommend you check this fight out for yourself because it is really well done, so head on over to 2003's Iron Man Volume 3 number 64 and let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Coming in at number 7, we have Iron Lad's armor. Stepping away from Tony Stark for a hot second, let us take a look at the armor Nathaniel Richards wears as Iron Lad. This neurokinetic suit was actually given to him by Kang the Conqueror, his future self, and Nate decided that instead of following in his own footsteps, he would travel to the past and enlist the help of the Avengers. However, they had already been disbanded. After downloading Vision's operating system and the Avengers failsafe program into his suit, he took up the guise of Iron Lad with plans to assemble the Young Avengers. While wearing this armor, Nate is able to lift 10 tons, create temporal divergences allowing him to travel through time, fire concussive blasts from his fingertips, and fly. This suit is also connected directly to his thoughts and emotions, so it's able to manifest and transform into whatever he's thinking. For example, say if someone grabbed him and he felt scared, the suit might create some spikes to get the attacker away. During this fight with Kang the Conqueror, Nate actually removes the armor to prevent himself from being tracked, and thanks to the Vision operating system, it becomes fully sentient, allowing Nate to return to his own timeline knowing that there will be someone or something around to protect the people as part of the Young Avengers. First appearing in 2005's Young Avengers number 1, why not give this whole storyline a read for yourself? Number 6, Model number 9. Now this one doesn't really get a fancy title like the other ones for some reason, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. After just one look at it, you're probably really confused why I put it on this list today, and rightly so, because it is one of Tony's earliest models. Tony finished this model just before the first Armor Wars and was very reluctant to use it due to his high power capabilities. However, he was later forced to use it to stop firepower after he was previously defeated in his other suits, and needless to say, he kinda got a taste for it because he continued to work as Iron Man in this suit for quite some time. Equipped with a battle computer that can track up to 60 enemies at once, a universal translator, an energy shield, and so much more, this suit is really not one you want to mess with. However, that's not why I thought it should be mentioned today. This suit is unique because at one point it actually fused with the Sword of Legend, Excalibur, bestowing Tony with magical powers along with his already incredibly advanced technology. And now with a badass new look, this suit also made him invulnerable, and this suit allowed Tony to defeat an extra-dimensional eye monster before reverting back to its original form. It sucks that this form didn't last longer, but hey, I guess if you make Iron Man invincible for too long, his ego might get bigger, and I don't think anyone would be able to handle that. The Model Number 9 suit first appears in 1988's Iron Man number 231, but if you're only interested in seeing it fused with Excalibur, don't worry, I got you. Check out Iron Man number 249 and 250. Number 5, we have Model 50 Endocyme Armor. Following the inversion spell that flipped his moral axis, Tony designed the Endocyme suit, a symbiotic suit made completely of a liquid smart metal that hardens when in contact with his body. Based off the symbiote's biology, this suit is basically meant to be on his person at all times, and it can even be controlled remotely, going as far as to take a humanoid form that is able to take commands through a psionic link. The abilities of the suit are absolutely insane. It's capable of absorbing energy, sustaining electrical currents like a never-ending taser, and even has the ability to increase its size into a makeshift Hulkbuster style suit. Fans have seen this armor go up against the likes of Storm and Spectre and come out on top with little to no damage taken. Unfortunately, or thankfully, I guess I'm not really sure at this point, it was destroyed during the Secret War and nobody has seen anything close to it ever since. Making a small cameo in 2014's Avengers Volume 5, number 32, we are fully introduced to this beast of a suit in 2015's Superior Iron Man number 1, so go take a look at it for yourself. Coming in at number 4, we have Model 51 Model Prime Armor. With the prototype first appearing in 2015's Contest of Champions number 1, this suit's full version came to life in the Invincible Iron Man Volume 3 number 1, and man, it is a pretty dang good suit. It basically combines all the aspects of Tony's other suits, making it adaptable to any task at hand. Even though it was designed solely because Tony felt threatened by Riri Williams, the 15-year-old MIT student who was able to reverse engineer some of his tech, it's a good thing it came to be because it has been very useful. Comprised of small hexagonal scales, this suit features upgraded versions of the standard Iron Man armor weaponry such as repulsor blasters that can cut through enemies with phasing abilities, and 3 unibeams on his chest, effectively making it a tri-beam. This suit also has some new tricks up its sleeves, such as a new onboard cloaking system. It can work autonomously if the pilot is injured, and most impressively, the suit can change shape at a moment's notice into anything from a sword to a complete shift into a Hulkbuster-like suit. It's also immune to a number of attacks, namely sonic attacks and EMPs, and can take a serious beating from the likes of Captain Marvel and so many more. There has also been another character in the Marvel Universe who actually donned this specific suit for a bit, but you know what, I'll let you find out who it was for yourself. Number 3, Model 37, Bleeding Edge Armor. Dubbed the next step after Extremis by Tony himself, this suit was created while he was trying to reinvent himself and his armor. Stark worked with Reed Richards to create this after getting away from running S.H.I.E.L.D. and being the head of the world. This suit existed inside of Tony Stark's body, literally forming around him thanks to incredibly powerful nanotech, and I know as unrealistic as a set of armor made out of nanotech may seem, the Bleeding Edge armor is arguably one of the best suits that Tony Stark has ever worn. Not only does it bring the benefits of an improved Extremis to the table, the nanotech that powers it basically ensures that Iron Man is ready to fight whenever and wherever. By creating a second layer of artificial muscle over to Stark's body, the armor is capable of healing itself and making it effectively invulnerable. And that, coupled with all his normal weaponry alongside a new energy blade and deflector shields, makes you wonder if it could get any better than this. It also happens to be one of Stark's most popular suits, becoming the hero's default look for several years, as well as the main inspiration for Tony's suit in Iron Man 3. Now, considering how quickly Iron Man can switch out of suits, 3 years with a single set of armor is pretty impressive, and that's why it's so high on this list today. Check it out in action for yourself in 2010's Invincible Iron Man Volume 2, number 25. Coming in at number 2, we have Model 61 God Killer Armor Mark II. Based on the original God-Killer armor created by the Aspirants many eons earlier, Tony created this celestial-sized armor and kept it hidden, having it orbit Mars in case one day a threat was big enough to warrant using it. Powered by 8 nuclear reactors, this suit is pretty basic when it comes to weaponry, only possessing repulsor blasters. However, its speed and strength make up for it, being able to travel between Earth and Mars in a matter of minutes, and able to lift celestial beings off the ground. When the Dark Celestials came to attack Earth in 2018's Avengers Volume 8 number 5, Tony felt it was finally time and deployed this behemoth of a machine. Allowing him to hold his own against the Dark Celestials for a short period of time, it ended up being no match for the almighty beings after Callus the Void was able to rip off its left arm. Hoping that taking one out would cause others to retreat, Tony attempted to launch the suit into space to blow it up. However, he was stopped by an army of dead Celestials reanimated by the Horde. With no other option, Tony ejected himself from the suit and caused it to self-destruct. Even though this armor only lasted 2 issues, its sheer power and overall manufacturing cost of over $4 billion is what landed it so high on today's list. And finally, number 1, we have Model 63 GOBLIN. Originating from The Escape, a virtual reality world created by Tony that allowed his mind to become unfettered from the restraints of the human brain, giving him the inspiration and knowledge he needed to create the only thing capable of destroying Motherboard, the GOBLIN armor. Though little is known about the suit's full capabilities, Tony's brother Arno deemed it to be his masterpiece, referring to it as the ultimate weapon. And even Ironheart couldn't get a full read on its power level, stating that the armor radiated more power than anything she had ever seen before. After successfully taking down the villain, Tony realized this suit was far too powerful to remain in the real world and made the decision to fly the suit back into the factory it was created in and caused it to self-destruct, making the resources needed to recreate it and the suit completely destroyed and useless. Arno does eventually recreate a version of the suit that he wears as his own, but you know, I think we can talk about that another time, maybe in part 2? Who knows? For now though, this is all we know about the best Iron Man suit ever made, so why not check it out for yourself in 2019's Tony Stark Iron Man number 10 and number 11. Number 10, Mark 66. Trapped and alone in 1 million BC, we see our Tony Stark of Earth 616 forced to build a new suit from the materials around him in order to survive. Dubbed the Ice Armor, Mark 66 is powered by some vibranium batteries that he was able to salvage from the Extremis armor, however it isn't capable of a whole lot considering how low tech it is. The armor seemed to only have very basic offensive capabilities, firing icicles from a wrist cannon. It was capable of repulsor blasters as well, but the more vibranium power the armor used, the more it melted because, you know, it's made of ice. As for defensive capabilities, the armor actually did a decent job because it allowed Tony to survive going toe-to-toe with Mephisto, but was quickly melted as a result of firing a massive energy blast to use the Time Stone. Take a look at this icy armor for yourself in 2020's Avengers Volume 8, number 31. Number 9, Bio Armor Mark 1. Hailing from Earth 55,921 comes a Tony Stark with a bit of an interesting twist. Maria Stark got bit by a monkey when she was pregnant with Tony and contracted a regenerative virus that mutated Tony's body in a pretty terrible way. His body grew some additional neural tissue throughout his body, meaning that his entire body was treated like a brain. So he was incredibly smart, but in constant pain due to overstimulation. Upon his birth, his dad coated his skin in a bacterial bio-armor in order to protect his skin. Fast forward a little bit, we see Tony working on his own versions of the Iron Man technology, and he became the Tony Stark that we all know and love. Besides the, you know, whole my body is a brain thing. Aside from just being a shield for Tony's chronic pain, the suit is also capable of flight, repulsor blasters, has a thought scrambler that can temporarily shut down all mental functions, and can even cut off superpowered beings from using their powers. This suit does actually have its limitations though, as it feeds directly off its user, which doesn't really matter too much for Tony, since his entire body regenerates. But if anyone else used it, they would be in some serious trouble. Check it out for yourself, starting with its first appearance in 2005's Ultimate Iron Man number 1. Number 8, Overload Armor. Appearing in the What If Marvel series, we have a Tony Stark of Earth 64,894 and his Overload Armor. After his first suit proved to be pretty much a success, Tony decided to patent his new technology and sell it off to the world. But this proved to be a bit of a problem because it created this huge arms race between governments and effectively ended the Age of Heroes, since naturally powered heroes couldn't keep up with the new tech enhanced ones. Because of this, Tony became a bit of a loner and sealed himself off because he feared that he would get hurt or even killed for the outcome of his actions, but he never stopped working on new tech just to stay ahead of the game. This is where the Overload Armor came into play, a massive suit that Tony used to absorb all of Magneto's magnetic powers, causing the suit to explode and envelop the planet in an energy wave that would render all of his tech useless, sending the world back into the Dark Age. After fighting with Magneto and his acolytes, Tony made up for his sins by not only taking down the villains, but also by forcing the world, in a very nice way, to use their funds for less harmful technology. Check out this suit for yourself, starting with 1994's What If Volume 2, number 64. Number 7. Anti-Transformer Armor. Coming to us from Earth 7642, the crossover Earth that gave us some great stories like Hulk vs. Superman, Uncanny X-Men vs. Teen Titans, and of course, New Avengers and Transformers. Made out of carbonite nanotube transistors and powered by 15 amperes, this armor was created when Tony heard some rumors that giant alien robots, i.e. the Transformers, were hiding out on Earth. It was Transformer sized and made specifically for combat with them. But the armor wasn't fully combat ready at the time it saw action though. It had severe energy management issues. Specifically, it was extremely energy intensive and ran low on power very quickly. Additionally, it was also prone to overload if power was supplied from an outside source. Nevertheless though, it served Iron Man well in his confrontation with the Decepticons, but was ultimately beheaded by Megatron, and Iron Man then exited the oversized suit and continued combat in his Extremis armor. Funnily enough, after the battle was over, Tony thought about what improvements he could make for another anti-Transformer suit, planning to make it even bigger than the last. Check it out for yourself, starting with its first appearance in 2007's New Avengers / Transformers, number 2. Number 6. Mark 45 Deep Space Armor. For a brief period of time, Stark traveled out into space to work with the Guardians of the Galaxy in hopes of understanding what was happening in the cosmos just a little bit better. In order to do so, he needed to create a suit that not only allowed him to survive the harshness of space, but also allowed him to move around with ease. The deep space armor that he created is absolutely incredible, as it's capable of traveling at warp speed for interplanetary travel, featured upgraded versions of all its normal weapons, and came equipped with an armor extension similar to the HULKBUSTER armor known as the Saturn V armor, specifically designed for landing on harsher planets. The suit also came equipped with the upgraded Pepper AI system, which was capable of taking over the suit in case of emergencies, and it had the Stark Omniversal multitasking software installed in it, meaning that Tony could control all of his suits on Earth from light years away. This suit is one of the most adaptable models Tony has ever created, and I highly recommend you check it out for yourself, starting with its first appearance in 2013's Iron Man Volume 5, number 5. Number 5. Mark 48 Cold Iron Armor. Another suit coming from the mind of Tony Stark of Earth 616 is the Cold Iron Armor, formerly known as Mark 48. It was first used by him after a stealth mission gone wrong, and Stark found himself in need of some reinforcement. At first glance, it doesn't look all that powerful in the conventional sense, but that's because it's specifically designed for the interaction with the magic realm rather than the human realm. What was otherwise a regular Iron Man suit was altered with the help of the magician Siobhan Haldane, who basically created something to help Stark survive in the world of the Dark Elves. The suit itself is made of cold metal, so just touching it weakens the Dark Elves, and it can also fire weapons made of that same iron, allowing the armored Avenger to live up to his name just a little bit more, while being effective against the things that have a weakness to that material. All in all, this makes him deadly enough for the Elves, who normally, for mortals, are a big threat, and that is why this suit is on our list today. Check it out for yourself in 2014's Iron Man Volume 5, number 24. Number 4. Mark 29 Extremis. Yep, that is right, I'm actually talking about the Extremis armor this time. In an attempt to take down the Extremis-powered Malin, Tony did the only logical thing he could think of. Inject himself with a modified dose of Extremis to heal his injuries and allow him to pilot a suit that he'd been working on that was a bit tougher and a lot lighter than anything else he had built before. The modified dose allowed the crucial undersheath of the Iron Man suit to be super compressed and stored in the hollows of Tony's bones. The undersheath became directly wired to Tony's brain, which allowed him to control the new Iron Man armor with thought and even interface with other technologies. As one of Tony's more famous and recognizable suits, you probably already know a bit about it and what it's capable of, but I'm gonna give you the rundown anyways. This suit was capable of regeneration for both the suit and its wearers, could be piloted remotely, allowed Tony to access pretty much any form of technology, could time travel, and was pretty adaptable as the neural net would not only protect the wearer from superpowered attacks, but could also simulate them. Also, can't forget that it came equipped with the standard unibeam, pulse bolts, and flight ability as well. Why not check it out for yourself, starting with 2005's Iron Man Volume 4, number 4. Number 3. Mark 38 Uru Armor. Making its debut in the Fear Itself storyline, the Uru armor, also known as the Iron Destroyer, was an enchanted bleeding edge armor that was based off the Destroyer, enhanced with Asgardian magic, and covered in Asgardian Uru metal. During the War of the Serpent, Odin Borson let Stark have access to the forges and created an arsenal of Uru weapons to combat the enemy forces raising the Earth. In order to acquire his own enhancements, Tony merged the systems of the bleeding edge armor with Uru, turning it into the Iron Destroyer until the end of the battle. This specific suit's capabilities are not entirely known, but since it is an improvement on the bleeding edge armor, then we can only assume it still has all the capabilities of that suit, such as regeneration, that whole energy blade and deflector shields thing, and of course, the normal weaponry that you would expect. Now, just imagine all of that, coupled with the almighty power of Asgardian magic and a near indestructible metal. That would make for one ridiculously OP suit. So why not check it out for yourself in 2011's Fear Itself number 7, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Number 2, Mark 68. Now if you're not familiar with the more recent Iron Man storyline, don't worry, I will not spoil too much of it for you, but just in case you don't want to know anything about it, you might want to skip ahead a little bit. After Tony finally realized he was the real Tony Stark, it's weird I know, but it makes sense in context, trust me, he started working on this specific suit using all of the virtual resources available to him. What sets his suit apart from his other suits is that it's not actually made of metal or any matter at all. This suit is composed of solid holograms from the E-scape. This allows Tony to create any weapon he could possibly think of, including repulsor beams and unibeams. The armor also augments Tony's strength to the point where he could easily rip apart the armor of his brother Arno. Now defensively, the armor can protect against any standard weapons like missiles and unconventional ones like repulsor beams as well. I think the best way to sum up the suit is with a quote from Tony Stark himself. "Come on Arno, still making armor out of metal? How very 2020. I'm a futurist. My new suit's made of an entire world, the E-scape. Solid hologram, virtual armor, it's only my limit. My imagination." Take a look at this armor for yourself, starting with 2020's Iron Man 2020, Volume 2, Number 5. And Number 1, ZIRAN armor. Making its debut in What If Newer Fantastic Four, a new iteration of the Fantastic Four was introduced to us made up of Iron Man, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and the Hulk. This iteration goes up against Thanos as they are apparently the best chance at taking him down, and they do actually succeed with Wolverine cutting off his arm. But anyways, I'm going to focus on the ZIRAN suit now. When ZIRAN, the tester of the Celestials, was murdered by Thanos via the use of the Infinity Gauntlet, the newer Fantastic Four brought ZIRAN's arm through their modified negative zone portal where Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, who had been permanently separated from the Hulk at the time, could study it properly. After learning that the Celestials controlled their armor via sheer willpower and thought alone, Tony managed to adjust the armor to respond to human thought, and linked it to the negative zone using Mr. Fantastic's technology, and then took control of the armor and made it his own. The actual capabilities of this suit are not fully known, but with the vast cosmic powers it should possess, the armor is able to withstand planet-shattering impacts with ease, and the armor is able to withstand strikes from nuclear warheads, and is said to even be more powerful than some of the Celestials out there. And not to mention, it's said to be even more powerful than the God Killer Mark II. If you've got any more info on this suit, please let me know in the comments below. I am honestly in love with it and would love to know some more. For now though, check it out for yourself in 2009's What If Newer Fantastic Four.
Number 10, Iron Goblin. Iron Goblin was a version of Tony that was kind of combined with Green Goblin through being exposed to the Goblin serum in order to save his life. This saved him from the spider virus, but also made him insane like Norman Osborn. This version of Tony Stark ultimately decided to sacrifice himself for others, not wanting to completely lose his sanity, and as a means of making amends for all the bad that he had done in his life prior to becoming Iron Man. As Iron Goblin, he wielded the Ebony Blade, attempting to buy some time for the Resistance to escape from the Spider Army on Spider Island, which if you didn't know is all part of Battle World, Secret Wars, all that good stuff. Number 9, Old Iron Man. This version of Tony Stark is actually the original from the comics who died after it was revealed in the Crossing event that he was actually evil. Dun dun dun! This version of Tony was a sleeper agent for Kang the Conqueror, who had brainwashed him into basically becoming evil and becoming a villain. Even the Avengers couldn't stand up to Iron Man alone here. They recruited a younger version of the hero from the past to join them in their fight against older Iron Man. Unfortunately, this only resulted in younger and less experienced Tony getting his butt whooped and nearly being killed by his older self. In the end, older Iron Man was defeated when he basically saw the light and decided to return to the side of good, sacrificing himself and also creating a chest plate before doing so in order to stabilize his younger self, who would then go on to take his place. That's a real thing that happened. The Crossing, what a time. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, if you want to learn about more awesome alternate versions of Iron Man, be sure to show us by giving this video a like, give it a little thumbs up, and definitely do that because there's lots of alternate versions of Iron Man that I still haven't mentioned. I didn't think I was gonna be super into Iron Man and that I would have all these alternates on my mind that I wanted to talk about, but there's actually a lot that I still haven't talked about. A lot of great ones. A lot of lady Iron Mans as well that we haven't talked about. Iron Womans. Iron Womans? I don't know. Number 8, Superior Iron Man. While this is still Tony Stark from the main continuity, Stark also kind of erased this version of himself from his brain in order to... This is so complicated, I love it. While this is still Tony Stark from the main continuity, Stark also kind of erased this version of himself from his brain in order to protect important information from falling into the hands of Hammer's director, Norman Osborn, at the time during Dark Reign. So for that reason, I'm gonna count him, because he kind of erased this version of himself, even though it all happened in main continuity. Superior Iron Man, or evil Tony Stark, was created during the events of Axis, when heroes and villains had their alignments flipped. So heroes became villains and villains became heroes. It was a weird but overall fun time in terms of what the characters got up to. Tony managed to shield himself from having his alignment return to normal and, in secret, kept his alignment evil. This version of Tony had no moral code holding him back, and at one point almost successfully took over San Francisco with the creation of a phone app and a little bit of Extremis. True story. Well, maybe a lot of Extremis, because it went into the water supply. But still, I think it's impressive if you can be like, here's an app, it's free, now it's $100 a day! That's crazy. Sorry, $99.99. Because that's a more appeasing price to the eye. Did you know? Number 7. Iron Man 2.0. This was a name that Rhodey took up later on as a version of Iron Man who served the government, but Tony Stark's BFF James Rhodes actually took up the mantle of Iron Man way before that in the comics as well, back when he was known just as Iron Man. Of course, with this being an alternate list, I thought just calling him just Iron Man might be confusing, so I took the later editorial name that was used in the comics when he was Iron Man another time. Rhodey ended up taking over as Iron Man actually way back in the 80s in the comics, after Tony's alcoholism was getting in the way and making it difficult for him to act as a hero responsibly. And Rhodey actually stayed as Iron Man for quite some time, while Tony took time off to relax and recover. Rhodey was an impressive Iron Man, but would eventually be forced to give up the mantle due to headaches that he suffered as a side effect of the suit not being properly calibrated to his brain patterns. Which honestly, I feel like if you're taking over as Iron Man, that should probably be a step that happens. Like, it's kind of rude that Tony didn't think about that. These headaches made him overly aggressive and irritable, forcing Tony to reclaim the mantle once more, because it was too dangerous, but he'd be Iron Man again later, so yay! Number 6. Iron Man 2020. This version of Iron Man is the brother of Tony Stark and the legitimate child of Howard and Maria Stark, because as we'd later find out, Tony was adopted. But before that happened, they had Arno. Arno had to be hidden away for years because he was sick and in danger, but once that was somewhat resolved, it's kind of a long story, Tony ended up learning of his existence and reached out to meet his brother. Arno Stark is also known for his brilliant intellect like his brother. In fact, he has even claimed to be smarter than Tony in the past, which I don't know, but I personally think that it could be true. Arno successfully modified the Extremis virus, attempting to turn it into a cure-all, and at one point using it to increase the Hulk's intelligence dramatically. Arno was also convinced at one point while operating as Iron Man that the only way to ensure peace between AI and organic life forms was to seize control of both sides' minds. Fortunately, he was stopped in this pursuit by his brother, Tony Stark. And I think now he's just like living in some sort of simulation that Tony put him in to just make him feel like a hero while he's like, I'm just gonna do this while we figure out how to not have you be around and be kind of evil. That would be good. Arno just thought he was doing what was best. I don't know what's wrong with that. Number 5. Dr. Anthony Stark. This version of Tony Stark only makes a brief appearance in the comics, having appeared less than a handful of times and making his first appearance in All New X-Men Annual Issue Number 1. He hails from the reality temporarily numbered 591. Not an official number just yet. Here, Tony Stark has become Sorcerer Supreme of the entire galaxy in this alternate future of the year 2099. He discusses the blend and interchangeability of both science and magic. It seems as the years passed for this Tony, he only became even smarter, wiser, and more mystical. Neat. Number 4. MCU Iron Man. Iron Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was the one who managed to put a stop to Thanos once and for all. He created a gauntlet capable of handling and wielding the awesome power of the Infinity Stones, and was also the one to discover time travel. Well, to discover a version of time travel that actually worked. Banner was close, of course, but I don't think either he or Scott Lang would have gotten there in time without Tony Stark's breakthrough aha moment. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, Tony Stark is the main creator creator of Ultron. While this ended up overall being a bad move on his part as Ultron became a supervillain, the accomplishment of creating an AI that powerful and complex is still really impressive. And without Ultron, we'd never have gotten Vision. This version of the character, played by Robert Downey Jr., also really helped to skyrocket Iron Man's popularity in the comics and around the world. RIP MCU Iron Man. You will be missed. Number 3, Iron Lantern. I'm really happy that this is the amalgamated version of this name that we went with instead of Green Man, which is less exhilarating by comparison. Green Man. Iron Lantern is a hero who comes to us from the Amalgamverse, and unsurprisingly, he is a mashup of DC's Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, and Marvel's Iron Man, Tony Stark. His name is Harold Hal Stark, and he gets his powers from a suit he made using a battery that he found amidst the wreckage of an alien ship. I love amalgam characters. Number 2, Iron Hammer. Stark Odinson is the version of Tony and Thor who hails from Warp World. Warp World was created when Gamora folded the universe in half using the power of the Infinity Stones. She then sealed these blended souls within the Soul Stone. While everything would be set right, this version of the universe was still allowed to continue to exist and kind of made its own thing, which I'm happy about because Warp World is pretty cool. Iron Hammer has both the ingenuity and brilliant armor of Tony Stark, as well as the Asgardian strength, immortality, and hammer Mjolnir of Thor Odinson. Number 1, Infamous Iron Man. Controversial opinion possibly, but I think Victor Von Doom is the most powerful of all of the Iron Mans. Doom took up the mantle of Iron Man following the events of Civil War II, which saw Tony left in a coma as a result of a fight with Captain Marvel. Dr. Doom, after the events of Secret Wars, had been looking to turn over a new leaf, and had decided to ally himself with Tony Stark as such, which also meant fighting on his side during Civil War II. In his honor, Doom took up the mantle of Infamous Iron Man and proved himself to be one of the most capable versions of the hero that we've ever seen. Honestly, I feel like Doom as any hero or villain would be so powerful. I just love Dr. Doom. I don't know, spoiler alert, I love Dr. Doom. You already knew that. When this happened, even the villains knew they needed to be on high alert, gathering to discuss an alliance as they assumed this would be the only way to protect themselves against Infamous Iron Man, only to have Doom drop in on the meeting and make quick work of, well, pretty much all of them. Infamous Iron Man was great, and honestly, it was too short-lived. Come back, Infamous Iron Man, come back to us. Number 10, Steel Corpse. Steel Corpse is definitely one of the most horrifying alternate versions of Tony Stark. He hails from the Age of X reality, that of Earth 11326. Here, Tony Stark ends up becoming infected with a virus that permanently merges him with his suit, causing him to slowly be devoured by it as time wears on. Still, despite the fact that the suit also possesses its own directives and was slowly overpowering Tony's own will, Tony managed to hold on long enough to ask that Cap take care of him when, against his own intentions at the time, his suit started targeting mutant children. Captain America did as Tony asked, killing him to ensure the mutant's safety and allowing Steel Corpse to die a hero. I mean, what more can you ask for if you're Tony Stark? As long as you go out glory blazing, you know what I mean? Glory blazing is not a thing anyone says. Don't say that. Number 9, Bullet Points Iron Man. Bullet Points Iron Man is actually Steven Rogers in the reality of Earth 70105. Here, Captain America never became, well, Captain America. Dr. Erskine was killed before the Super Soldier project was completed, causing the government to turn to their backup plan, Project Iron Man. Steve volunteered for the plan, which saw him surgically grafted into an old school and, in this reality, I guess, original Iron Man suit. It wasn't old school at the time, but retroactive to now would be considered old school. Does that make sense? Instead of becoming a super soldier, Steve Rogers fought in World War II as Iron Man. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, we have a new channel coming your way. What? It is called Top 10 Nerd Elite, and it is for the most elite of the Nerd Squad members. So get on over there, hit that subscribe, and check it out for all of the glorious nerd bonus content. We're gonna have so many cool, exciting things coming up on there. I'm so excited. Number 8, Iron Man Noir. Iron Man Noir is the alternate version of Tony Stark who hails from Earth 90214, Marvel's Noirverse. In this reality, Tony Stark is still a genius and an inventor who even back in the 1930s managed to make himself an impressive suit of Iron Man armor. Here, Tony is also an errant wanderer who enjoys going on expeditions and adventures to hunt down lost artifacts. Along the way, he makes some powerful allies and and learns dark truths about his family. Number 7. Younger Tony. A weird fact is that for a while in the main continuity, an alternate version of Tony Stark was actually the main version, while at the same time still remaining an alternate. Are you confused yet? Kind of like how Miles Morales is both Spider-Man in the 616 continuity, but also an alternate Spider-Man from outside of that continuity. Even though I know what you're all thinking, well, Miles Morales isn't like the main Spider-Man. Whatever, he's a main Spider-Man in my heart. And that's why this is a little bit different, because this version of Tony Stark actually took his predecessor's place. For a time, anyways. What happened was older Tony Stark, the original version, had been revealed to be a sleeper agent for Immortus, aka Kang the Conqueror. As a result, the Avengers brought back a younger version of Stark to help in defeating the hero turned villain. Unfortunately, that didn't work out great, and younger Tony Stark almost got himself killed. However, in the end, older Tony saw the error of his ways and sacrificed himself, passing the torch on to younger Tony of Earth 96020, plucked from earlier on in Tony's own timeline. This younger version of Tony would stick around on Earth 616, helping to defeat Stockpile, Frostbite, Zodiac, and eventually even Onslaught. After his seeming death at the hands of Onslaught, young Franklin Richards brought back all of the heroes who had fallen, including younger Tony and actually the older Tony from before, merging the two together. So younger Tony really is both an alternate and at the same time is part of Prime Tony Stark. Younger Tony, while powerful now as part of the 616 Tony Stark, initially mainly fought without full armor, instead often only coming armed with his chest plate and gauntlets, which is why he ranks so low on this list. But he's still powerful. He's still part of Prime Tony. So we gotta count that. Number 6. Agent Venom. For a very brief moment, Flash Thompson got to experience what it was like to be Iron Man when he donned an Iron Man suit in order to get in closer to Venom, which itself was bonded with Superior Spider-Man, making him lose control and turn violent. I don't know if we'd exactly consider him a true alternate, as I believe his time donning the armor was quite brief, unless there's something that I've missed here, but it's still a cool moment in a pretty cool story, and so for that reason, we're gonna count it today. Fortunately, through using the Iron Man armor, Flash was able to get up close and personal and lure the symbiote back to himself, once more becoming Agent Venom. It was also during this adventure that Flash was also made an honorary Avengers team member. Pretty neat. Number 5. Superior Iron Woman, aka Rescue. Rescue is Pepper Potts, Virginia Pepper Potts, and the editorial name used for her was Superior Iron Woman. I just felt that name was more in theme with what we have going on this list, and we already have Agent Venom on here, who sadly did not really have a cool Iron Man related name during his brief time in the armor, so I was like, I want to try to keep it as Iron Man-y as I can. Pepper became Rescue after Norman Osborn took control, leading the S.H.I.E.L.D. replacement organization Hammer. During her escape, Pepper found a suit designed just for her, which also happened to have an AI version of Jarvis inside. She not only has her own suit of highly advanced armor, but she also has the repulsor tech node, which helps to keep her alive after she also had irremovable shrapnel lodged near her heart. But the RT node also acts as an extra sense, allowing her to feel and interact with various types of energy. It also enhances Pepper's senses and grants her increased strength and overall durability. Number 4. Zombie Iron Man. Well, you might think it would be hard to turn Tony Stark into a zombie because of, his Iron Man suit always protecting him. You'd actually be wrong. It was before he could get his suit on that he was bitten while working on a teleportation device thought of as a way to save the survivors on their world and basically shut out the zombies. Which makes sense after all. I mean, you want to be light and breezy and not covered in armor when you're brainstorming up a plan and working on tech that, could save humanity. So I get it. Zombie Iron Man, however, would go on to become one of the longest surviving and most powerful zombies in the Earth-Z universe, gaining the power cosmic after devouring Galactus and becoming known as one of the zombie Galacti. In the end, however, zombie Iron Man proved no match for a raging and hungry zombie Hulk. R.I.P. zombie Iron Man. Number 3. Iron Man's suit. In the 1998 Iron Man series Volume 3, we get a story where Iron Man's suit becomes its own version of Iron Man after Tony develops a sentient model. Not a great idea, it turns out. This now sentient suit kind of falls in love with Tony and wants to merge with him. Despite all the warning signs, Stark attempts to continue to use the suit for a bit, but eventually realizes it needs to be defeated. When he refuses to merge with the Iron Man suit, it decides if it can't have him, no one can, and attempts to kill Tony for refusing it. However, in the end, the two duke it out and Tony suffers a heart attack. Due to its love for Tony, the suit sacrifices its own mechanical heart for its creator, giving up its life so that Tony Stark can go on living. The whole thing is pretty weird, but also also pretty great. And if not for the heart attack, I'm not so sure how Tony would have actually fared in the end against his sentient suit, because it was pretty powerful. I also love the part where he's suffering from the heart attack and he's like begging the suit to kill him so that he doesn't die like an old man. I kid you not, that is the thing that happens. If you want to check out the sentient suit story and Tony begging to be killed because he's like, I can't die from a heart attack, feel free to give issues 26 through 30 of the 1998 series a read. Number 2, Iron Man 2020. I know what you're thinking if you've watched part 1 of this list, but Amanda, wait a minute, didn't we already talk about Iron Man 2020? And you're right, of course, we did talk about Iron Man 2020, but we did not talk about this Iron Man 2020. This version of Arno Stark hails from the Earth 8410, the future. You can tell it's the future because of those sweet gear shoulders on his armor. Just look at those gears, just check that out. This version of Arno Stark is also a genius who is great at inventing things and is meant to be the descendant or semi-close relative of Tony Stark, but not his brother, more like a future relative. A few times he refers to Tony as his Uncle Tony, though seemingly in a more distant sense. It has been mentioned that Tony Stark was his great uncle, though this was before Tony's brother Arno had been established in the comics, so who knows how he's really related. Or if he's related at all, maybe it's all a ruse. Number 1, Ironheart. Ironheart is Riri Williams. Last time on part 1 we talked about another alternate Iron Man from the main continuity who took up the mantle in Tony's honor. And Riri Williams as Ironheart is another hero who also did so, and around the same time too. She caught the attention of Tony Stark and became a sort of young protege and ally of his, after she built her own Iron Man suit by reverse engineering it. She had taken the suit out on a test flight and managed to apprehend escaped prisoners using it, but damaging it as well in the process. When Tony heard of this, he visited Riri and encouraged her interest in becoming a hero. Riri would then ally herself with Tony Stark during the events of the Second Civil War and also be one of the heroes to take his place after he ended up in a coma following his fight against Captain Marvel. Like Iron Man, Ironheart is also a super genius who has managed to invent and create some really impressive tech, sometimes even without access to the best equipment.